Also, is he like right on the mic? Should we try that again? Should we do round 2? Hello. Oh my God. Welcome back to my channel, to Cooking Slow with Natalia. Very excited to be here. Last week you will have seen we posted our roast chicken recipe, and this week, as promised, we're going to show you how to make bone broth, or stock really, out of the bones. This is essentially that chicken. We just put it in a freezer bag and shoved it in the freezer, which is what you can do if you're not ready to make the stock there and then, or you can just literally do this after you finish roasting your chicken. Gonna just put this straight into my biggest pot that I own, which is my big old Le Creuset. You can see there's little remnants of last week's meal. This was the chili from the cucumber, smack cucumber salad. Don't worry about all of that. We've also got the chicken wings, which we've left all the meat on because the more meat, the more flavor. And also the chicken wings are really, really high in collagen, which breaks down into gelatin, which is what, when you put your stock in the fridge and it turns into that gelatin, it kind of is in the word. That's what that helps, contributes towards. You probably know collagen is quite like a buzzword in sort of on social media and stuff like that at the moment, but collagen and gelatin, I guess, as well, are really great for skin elasticity. So lots of ladies, I use retinol, which is really high in collagen, and it just basically helps keep your skin nice, firm, tight, and youthful, which obviously we all want. And it's good for your bones and stuff like that. And this is why there's such a huge craze about bone broth and drinking it and the benefits. So here we have a selection of what's going to go inside my broth. I like to do celery, leek, carrots. I will do half each of an onion. Because we're using leek, I won't use a whole onion. I mean a whole 2 onions, because this has quite an oniony flavor. I will use 2 stalks of celery, but as Joss just very kindly pointed out, he uses the middle part because it's such a faff to cook with, and I'm gonna steal that because I think it's genius. So I'll just take off the root because we don't need that. And then I just cut it into kind of smallish pieces, and we'll put that in there.
You can use the root as well.
Can you?
Yeah.
Will it not make, okay, we'll use the root. Joss is schooling me. And then for the leeks, again, just cutting them into pieces like that. I'm going to only use 1 leek because I am using onions. I will take the skin off the onions. So the only reason I do that is because I like my broth to be quite light in color. And the skin makes it dark. The reason I like a light colored broth is just because I think it lends itself quite well to other dishes. I love making things like, you know, brothy soups. I do a lot of risottos, and so having a light broth kind of lends itself quite well to that, but it's not essential. And if you like quite a dark broth for, say, like if you were using it for gravy or something like that, it'd be nice to have a darker color, and then you can just leave the skins on, but they can just go in pretty much whole. I might cut that one in a quarter like that. And then my carrots, I'm not going to peel them. These are organic. Just give them a wash. If they're not, you can peel them if you want. Again, I don't know why I keep taking off the ends. It's just habitual, but you can keep all the ends on. But the skin is where a lot of the nutrients are in vegetables, so it's good to keep them on. I'm going to do a whole head of garlic pretty much because I really love garlic. I'm just, again, taking off some of the skin, and then I've just cut some of those, but I will basically just cut it like that so that the actual garlic can penetrate the broth. Chuck that in, she's gone. So when it comes to aromatics, you can really do whatever you want. If you were making something, if you were leaning towards like an Asian-inspired soup or using it for things like congee, you could flavor it with spring onions, loads of ginger, maybe some star anise. As I said before, I quite like to go down, oh, I've got a really itchy nose. I think I just touched peppercorn and touched my nose. I have kind of my very standard broth, which I just use really, really simply, some whole peppercorns. You can use coarse ground black pepper, but I find when you sieve it, you end up getting all those bits in. It's quite hard unless you use like a cheesecloth, which I don't always use because I'm quite lazy. So here I have black peppercorns, which I'll only use a pinch. You don't want to use too many. These are some dried bay leaves from There's a massive bay tree around the front of my house, which we're not going to show you for privacy reasons. And then just some rosemary from my garden. If I had thyme as well, I would put a little bit of thyme in, but these are just my chosen aromatics. Sometimes if I have loads of leftover parsley or chives, I will just chuck that into. The more herbs, the merrier. But sadly, my parsley is no more. So I'll go in probably with 2 bay leaves. These are dried, might just do like that little guy as well. And then I will actually just go in with that many. So I'm going to go in with probably like that many peppercorns. And then you want to do quite a heavy pinch of salt because there's a lot in here, but also don't forget that chicken has been seasoned. And then all you do is fill it up with water and put it on to boil. I think what's really fun about making stock is that you can really experiment with flavors, and it's kind of like a patience game because obviously it takes a while to make. You've got to let this, I'll bring this to a boil, reduce to simmer, put the lid on and let it boil on it, not let it boil. I'll usually let it simmer for absolutely as long as I can. Realistically, I'm usually making a roast chicken in the evening, so it usually would get maybe 4 to 6 hours of simmer time, but then I'll just leave it overnight to sort of really soak all of those flavors up. But it's midday today, so I'm probably gonna let this simmer until I go to bed and then turn it off the heat. And then tomorrow morning, I'll just strain it all, and I put loads in the freezer, have some out. But as I was saying, it's a long game and you can have so much fun with experimenting with different flavors, what you prefer. I don't like too heavy on the carrot because I find that brings too much of a sweetness to it, which I don't really like. I love really smelly things like onions and garlic, so I go quite heavy on the sort of allium family. And yeah, you can just have loads of fun with it. So try this one and then try your own and see what you prefer. And let me know in the comments what your favorite combo is, because I would love to know, and then maybe I can try it and we can discuss. Really fill it up because obviously it's liquid gold stock. I love it. Have it with everything. One of my favorite things that I'm really into at the moment is actually just either egg drop soup using the stock, or I've been doing a lot of tortellini in brodo, which is an Italian dish. I've been cheating and buying my tortellini, but I get them from this really, really lovely Italian deli, and they're the tiny, tiny, tiny ones. I find like, and I think Joss is actually kind of the same, but broth for me is like really healing, and it feels very nourishing and very comforting. And sometimes, especially around like my time of the month, I absolutely crave it, like for breakfast. Sometimes I'll wake up and, or like, yeah, I could ramble about broth for a really long time, but yeah, I just really fucking love broth. It's just, yeah, it's just delicious. I love soupy things. There's also something else that you can make, which is one of my favorite Austrian recipes called Frittatensuppe. And it's basically like really, Joss is laughing at me, as you can probably tell by the shaking camera. You make really thin crepes and then cut them into like noodles, and you put it in the broth. Traditionally, it's beef broth, but it works just as well with chicken broth, and then loads of chives, and it's delicious.
Italian, one of them.
Yeah?
Super traditional Italian. Yeah, like almost cut up like it's tagliatelle.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's pancakes, yeah.
Maybe it's that melting region.
Yeah, definitely, like the Dolomites and stuff like that. Yeah, so I used to live in Austria when I was younger. I lived in Vienna for 4 years, so I have a huge affiliation with Austrian food, and a lot of their food is like broths with various types of soups. So there's another one called Knödelsuppe, which is basically like a knödel is like it's like a potato-y dumpling, and sometimes they'll be really, really big, sometimes they'll be really small, and loads of them. And it's just comfort food. Like Austrian food is really beige, and that speaks to me. I love it. But yeah, Frittatensuppe is one of my favorites, especially when we were young. We used to go skiing quite a lot because it was only a few hours drive to the mountains, and you'd go halfway down the mountain and have like a steaming pot of Frittatensuppe, and it's great. And actually there's a recipe for it in my cookbook. So I'm just it hasn't come to a boil yet, but I'm gonna put the lid on because it will make it come to a boil much faster. And then once it is sort of like rolling, you'll see there's kind of like a foamy skim at the top. And I've just got a spoon and a bowl, which I will literally just peel that off, but you'll see. But basically that is just to keep, it's not a necessary element of making broth. If you're lazy like me, you tend to forget it, but it means either your broth will be cloudy or clear or like translucent, whether or not you take it off. So just stay tuned for that. So this one doesn't seem to have too much foam, but you can see sort of like around the edges, and here is the best example. So all you want to do is basically use a spoon and very gently, you will end up taking a little bit of stock with you, but don't worry too much about that because you do have a whole pot. The foam normally comes quite thick and like it can be quite grey and actually look a bit disgusting. Don't be alarmed, you haven't done anything wrong if it looks like that. Just as I said, skim it off. When it is really thick and like that, it's actually a lot easier to skim off. But yeah, it just means that your broth will be a little bit clearer, more translucent. And as we said before, it's like all the impurities from the chicken. Also, just to touch on earlier, I didn't add my skins in because I wanted it to be a light broth, but if you did want a really, really dark broth, another thing that you can do, and actually this is what I would do if I was making a broth just of vegetable broth, is roast all of your veg first, get that really sticky caramelization, and then pour the water on top, and then bring all of that to a boil, bring it down to a simmer, let it sit for a long time. Roasting it gives it a very rich, decadent, kind of umami, but also sweet flavor. It's kind of like when you eat roasted vegetables compared to boiled vegetables, there's always just a bit more flavor. So I would never, if you're making just a vegetable broth, I would never just boil them because it's not going to be that rich a flavor. You get a lot of the flavor from the bones when you do meat or fish broths. I was going to say brothers. So yes, that's another option, but it will make your broth very dark, which is also not a problem. As I said, if you're using it for a gravy or something like that, it's kind of perfect. I don't know. Anyway, but I'm rambling now. But anyway, that's my recipe, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And as I said before, let me know what combinations you try because I'd love to know. And yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and we'll get back to you. One more thing that's worth mentioning is obviously I know having something on the hob for 10 hours is going to use up a lot of energy. You can do it for 2 hours and then just let it sit and get to room temperature. That will work. However, the longer you simmer it and reduce it for, the deeper your broth will penetrate those chicken bones, the more nutrients it's going to pull out of it, the more flavour. So just do it as long as you possibly can, but obviously within reason to what your, general vibe is.